feeling so sure. I'm tired of being lonely all the time.
And now, Morning Chat with Kenn Hayes on WSYB and WSYB1380AM.com. Talk of the day, conversation with folks around town, and you. Your calls are always welcome at 802-773-9792 or toll free 877-241-5960. And now, here's Kenn.
I was hoping you'd be there. Kenn Hayes here for Thursday, the 31st of March, 2016. 6 minutes after 9 o'clock at WSYB. Can you believe tomorrow's going to be April 1st? Holy cow. No, just sometimes I have to stop and think. I'm getting older. I keep dragging my heels, and the only thing it does is make me have to buy new shoes that much sooner. I can't slow the rotation of the planet no matter how hard I try. You know who might know how I could do that? Bonnie Olson, who's our guest this morning on SYB. Are you dragging your heels in there to try to slow it with me? Maybe if we both drag our heels at the same time, we could slow the rotation of the planet. Bonnie Olson's with us, certified Martha Beck life coach. She's back with us once again. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thanks. I appreciate so much you asking me and thinking of me when you see me listed as teaching a new class up at the hospital.
Well,
it's
you
great.
always have terrific topics and just kind of spot on way of dealing with life, because we all kind of avoid the areas that make us a little uncomfortable, or the ones where you say, yeah, I'm going to get to that. I'll deal with that later, and somehow later never gets there. But you have a very gentle but direct way of dealing with it, and I like the fact that you're direct, but you're also gentle, so we're not clobbered over the head by it. So it's always fun when you can come in. And can we say on the air now that I'm really looking forward to getting your daughter Sally in here? I had no idea it was the same Olson family. Man, you are a multi-talented family. It's amazing. I mean, from your husband and is it your father or your husband's father who makes the maple syrup?
Oh, my dad.
Your dad makes the maple syrup?
Yeah.
Man, it's unbelievable.
Oh, I know.
What
Such
doesn't
talent.
your family do? I mean, Sally will be in with us because I'm sure you've seen the articles in the papers. The Rutland Herald had an article. The Burlington Free Press had an article. Sally bears a remarkable resemblance vocally to Karen Carpenter. And as somebody who's always been in love with Karen Carpenter's voice, when I found out that she was your daughter and she said, I'm doing a concert at Grace Church down here in Rutland in another month or so, and would you be interested? I was like, would I be interested? Are you kidding? Hey, I can ask you now. We didn't have this conversation, so you don't have to tell her, but would it be inappropriate of me to ask her, can she sing without somebody to play? Can she just sing on the air for us a little bit, or would that be...
You can ask her. She probably would be willing, but you can ask her.
Yeah. Oh, okay. She would be willing?
She might. I can't answer for her for sure, but...
Okay. Because some people that you would already know that she'd be like, no, she really can't without somebody, at least a piano accompaniment or something like that.
No, she's sung a cappella.
She has?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Man. I can't wait for this. Is she available like tomorrow? Oh, wait, tomorrow's the opera. It's a different kind of singing. Okay, next week. How about Monday? Is she doesn't live down here, though, right? She's up there?
In Burlington.
She is in the Burlington area?
Mm-hmm.
How long has she been up there?
Quite a few years. 10 years.
Oh, that long?
It's been a while.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought she was a recent, out of the nester.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Anyway, as they say in talk radio, that's not why Bonnie called. She's back with us again because she's back at the Leahy Community Health Education Center, CVPS, Leahy Community Health Education Center. Why isn't that the GMP, Leahy? They never changed that. Is it etched in stone? It still says CVPS over that thing. Anyway, she's over there at the Rutland Regional Medical Center on Allen Street here in Rutland. This presentation is titled Your Journey Discover Your Inspiring Story. It's a week from today. It's next Thursday, which would be April 7th from 6 to 7:30 in the evening. Registration is required. Class size is limited to 30 people. Can they still call? Are there still avails?
There's availability, sure. I just checked it yesterday.
772-2400, 772-2400, but sign up quickly because the class size is limited to 30 people. It's your journey. It's your story. And Bonnie will help you on the road of life. One of the things I noticed when I forget where I put it here, but somewhere in the ad it says, what seems like misery can become our greatest gift.
Always.
You're going to have a hard time selling that to crusty old guys like me who say, now come on, you telling me that the misery I put up with Healy every morning at 6 o'clock is the greatest gift I've ever had? He's listening now. That's why I can say that. But in all seriousness, I mean, their life can throw you some pretty tough curves from time to time. How do you convince anybody that that's a gift?
Well, obviously, when you're in the throes of an event in your life, it doesn't feel like a gift. It doesn't look like a gift in any way. But what happens is when you have some time and space past that event and you start telling your story, you find that there are gifts that you receive by going through that situation. But, like I say, it's more retrospective. This class is really about getting down your thoughts about a particular event that happened in your life. And most everything I do is really based in neuroscience, the study of the brain, and how we create connections in our brains. And we start telling ourselves a story, and it gets very embedded in our brain. Very strong neural pathways are created, and so we start believing that that's the only truth. That is the truth. But we can find that when we just start looking at things from a slightly different angle, the story changes for us, and we find that maybe we created some really great strengths in ourselves because of that thing that happened. And then other things opened up in our life because that thing happened. Instead of having it be a sad, difficult story, it becomes a hero journey.
Kind of sounds like the Phoenix process, though. I mean, the rising from the ashes of misery or defeat, somehow we've snatched victory.
Right. Well, what are we here for? We're here to learn. And things that, and that gets to my whole part two, what I wanted to talk about with everybody today. When we're not living our life based on what's best for us, driven by our inner wisdom, then we end up meeting more and more roadblocks, more and more difficulties in life. It doesn't flow. When we start shifting things and living from that place of peace within us, things magically happen for us. Things feel so much better. In retrospect, we find that a lot of the bumps in our lives were created maybe because we weren't listening to that inner voice, and we had lessons to learn.
I should be listening to the inner me as opposed to what does society expect of me? What do my parents expect of me? What does my spouse expect of me? What does the boss expect of me?
Right.
Except I have certain obligations with capital O's, right?
No, sure. But even in the smallest way, we can start driving our life by what feels better.
So when I go home today and I say to Sally, my Sally, not your Sally, although wouldn't that be weird if my Sally could suddenly sing like Karen Carpenter? Wow. My mind wanders sometimes. Forgive me, Bonnie. But if I went home and said, well, I have to be true to my inner self, and my inner self says, it's time for that move to Barrow, Alaska, for that little radio station that needs somebody to help run it. And by the way, nothing's changed. They still have no road system. They still get around by either, what do you call those things? Snowmobiles. Or for larger expanses, snowcats, or you either you fly in or out, or you take a ship, but not for Barrow. It's too far. It's north of the Arctic Circle. I'm picturing it on the map, and you don't have to worry because there's no local theater, no movie theater, no Paramount Theater. There's no local.
So you're saying you're it?
Yeah, you kind of, you rely on yourselves and whatever books you brought with you. And, you have. So when I go home and I say that to her, because I have to be true to my inner self, how do I deal with, do I duck first for what gets thrown at me, or do I expect a verbal barrage? And if so, how do I deal with the verbal barrage?
Well, when you're really digging deeply and really have had the conversation with yourself and you know what's best for you, a new rule that I'd like everybody to try to start living with is kindly do what's right for you, or what's best for you is best for everyone, because it truly is. Us leading our lives, doing what is at core best for us on the small things and on the bigger things. It allows other people to also do what's best for them. Everybody has their choice. We all have free will.
Right.
And I don't mean it in a negative, stubborn, obnoxious way. By God, this is what I'm doing. I mean, just obviously we have lives, we have other considerations to make, but listening to what's really true for us frees us. And other people accommodate, other people adjust, other people have their choices to make too.
Sounds like other people would gravitate towards, because someone like that would be intrinsically happy. I'll put that word in quotes, but
yes,
but not happy in the sense that we use it in the colloquial, but in the truest, in the purest sense of the, and happy people, they
attract
have that,
other people.
Yeah, they have that magical pixie dust attraction.
Yes, because they are so excited about what they're doing and what their life looks like, because they're living from that place that other people want some of that. Yeah.
Wow. So after I finish ducking, and after I take the
well, there's always that, but
but
that's first response, and you can't. It's not your business what somebody else really thinks or feels about something.
Well, it is when it's your spouse of 40 plus whatever it is years.
I'll be interested to see how the story turns out for you.
I actually already know the answer. I told you the story. That's true. We were back in our 20s when that happened. And I came home and said, I have this job offer and it's in Barrow. And she never there was no throwing of objects.
Yeah, I can't picture that.
And there was no verbal barrage. Mm-hmm. As I like to tell the story, she just gave me that look. That's right. It was that look. Well, the other day, we're out having dinner, and we meet up with a friend, and we're telling the story about that. And she says, and she was sincere, she said, you know what, if you want to go, let's go. I said, where the hell were you when we were, 40, 50 years ago? And she said, no, I'm serious. She said, my only concern is, what do you do with our stuff? And our friend said, what do you mean stuff? And she said, you've obviously never been married for 40, whatever it is, years. You get stuff. And I said, well, but it's just stuff.
You planted a seed, didn't you?
That's what I said. And she said, but other than that, she said, yeah, if we want to go, let's go. Let's go. I don't even know if the job exists anymore, but I just use that really always as a throwback. Mm-hmm. So here it is, after all those years, my little mustard seed has sprouted into the largest tree that holds the birds of the air. It just took a little longer than I thought for it to, but it's funny too, because I've never been the kind of guy who can go back in life and say, if I'd taken the left fork instead of the right fork in the road, if I'd gone that way, because you can make yourself crazy doing that.
And the truth is you didn't.
Exactly. and I always, I pride myself on making the best decision I can at the time, given the information available at the time.
Sure.
Now, I would beat myself up if I hadn't done my research, if I hadn't fully and thoroughly investigated all the potentials, all the possibilities, all the pitfalls, all the pluses, all the minuses. But once I've done all the hard homework and I've made the decision, I never second guess myself. I never go back.
You're one of the courageous ones. A lot of us do beat ourselves up.
I've noticed that, and it puzzles me. And why? If you made what could have only been the right decision at the time. It doesn't matter if 20 minutes or 20 years later, something else came along that would have changed that decision, because that wasn't there 20 minutes ago or 20 years ago. You couldn't possibly have, it's the old, if I had known then what I know now, but you can't.
No, it comes down to that belief in yourself and listening again to that voice within you, that inner wisdom. That's what we want to be driving our life from. And some people would say there are no mistakes. So know that you're safe. There are no mistakes. Go forward.
Oh, man, I like the way you think. I hope taking this phone call isn't a mistake. Hi, you're on SYB.
Ken, I'm afraid it is.
It's not a mistake. It's Bill.
Yeah, well, she's not going to like me because a lot of this, and I'm glad Bonnie's back because she's a great guest.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Oh, tell me about it.
Okay.
Too bad I have to
having Bonnie on.
Go ahead.
No, you said tell me about it. I said, okay, Bonnie's great. I love having Bonnie. I was teasing you. Go ahead.
I was setting her, I was trying to be gentle.
Uh-oh.
To tell her that a lot of this sounds like an idealistic concept.
No, it's really the truth within you. It's not idealistic. I don't believe.
Okay, here's...
And that's
it. We've drawn the line in the sand, Bill.
Oh, that's okay. That's the kind of conversations we like. But the first thing is finding your inner voice.
Mm-hmm.
Is the first challenge, because there is so much static.
Coming from your mind.
Exactly.
Yes.
And coming from defense mechanisms.
Yeah, all of the things that you've learned that you have created to keep you safe all your life. Yes.
Maybe the illusion of safe, but absolutely correct.
Right.
And so if you find your inner voice,
mm-hmm.
and that's a big if, and then you don't have the resources to act upon that information, or you're too afraid to act upon that information, or you have to face truths.
Well, you start with what you have where you are right now.
Right now.
Yep.
Okay, it's 9:22 in the morning. What can I do? I mean, this instant, right now. I did call you, first of all.
There you go.
Yeah, that was a great step.
So what I was going to talk about today, actually, Bill, was about being kind to ourselves. And this talk was going to be giving direction on how to do that, how to be kind. And when we are being kind, we are listening to that inner wisdom, and we are reducing stress and tension throughout our bodies, which reduces pain. So I don't know if that kind of fits in with what you're thinking about, but in some small way, what you're saying, I believe, relates to all of this. When we are tuned in, instead of living in our minds with the spinning thoughts, that's the only way you can hear your inner wisdom.
So start by being kind to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do that right now.
In this moment. Yep.
On the air.
You can.
Uh-huh. And
dropping the self-criticism, stopping the spinning thoughts by connecting with your body, and the way we do that is through breath.
Oh, we talked about that the first time I called. Yeah, because I was afraid to come on this program.
Did you forget? Have you forgotten to breathe all this time?
No, in through the nose, hold out through the mouth. I do that in Pine Hill Park a lot of times. That's the perfect environment for that.
That's a piece of it. And apparently you have a strong connection with nature that draws you to being there. And that exactly is one small way that you can take care of yourself today and connect with that inner wisdom that helps you to be true to yourself, mapping out what you want in the future.
Yeah, because why I struggled with that? And having a disability makes it very hard not to hate yourself. Like once, and this is a minor incident as incidences go, but it happens a lot. You go to the grocery store, and you meant to buy whole kernel corn, but you misread the label, and you bought cream-style corn, which I kind of don't like. And I honestly thought I was reading the label, and it's like, well, there you go, you're visually impaired, there's another screw up, and one thing leads to another, and, those happen quite frequently, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And, that leads to self-hatred or self-criticism, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not like a tornado came through Rutland or anything major like that, but it's so repetitive.
Yes. Yep. No, those things can be frustrating, those little details. But instead of going into that self-blame and self-criticism, just connect with your body, take a breath, take 3 breaths, what the heck.
Okay.
And get yourself in that calmer state where you can actually feel the emotion that's going through your body at that particular time. Because most of us just push aside our emotions. And that's also what I wanted to talk to people about today is every time we push aside the emotions and not allow them to be in us, they're part of our physiology. They're part of the function, just like breathing, just like, sight, sound, taste, all of those things. It's part of our bodies. So when we push them aside, being that emotion is energy, that energy gets stored in the body. And over time, that stored energy becomes anxiety and then can later become depression if we just keep dumping and keep, shoving those emotions away. And it also creates tension in the body by the brain. When you're storing emotion, the brain gets the idea that it's going to stop the blood flow in a particular part of your body. So a lot of us have a lot of random aches and pains that are chronic, and they can be caused from not processing emotions. So I know that's a lot more than what you were looking for, but it all starts with our thinking and not being self-critical and not, when emotions are created when we have thoughts, right?
I agree, and I don't think you're off at all, because repressed emotions, everything you talked about, plus digestive problems, you can throw that in, plus insomnia.
All of those things are related to emotions, yeah.
Repressed emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and sometimes these little incidences, like I told you about, the can, getting the wrong thing at the grocery store, accidentally throwing out something I didn't mean to do, which I hate. And I think it ties into if you already have or if your family has given you a negative self-image, or you've been marginalized by that. I have a theory that says the minor incidences can trigger something deeper, something which you wouldn't think much of. Then it becomes, because I'll give you another example. Happened recently. My mom was too busy to send an Easter card and I know through counseling that that's more than just a simple mess up. It's like you're not you're kind of marginalized. And so she kind of sends an email and says, well, I was too busy doing my taxes, forgot to send you an Easter card, and kind of deal with it. And of course, that's going to trigger something deeper. Well, it's going to trigger some anger, but if you feel the anger in my family, you might get isolated. You see where the emotions get blocked.
So can you kind of look through the fog of all of that and realize that that really had very little to do with you?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
Oh, yeah.
Made progress.
I've been in therapy before.
Yeah.
I kind of know the ropes. And that's another thing. Sometimes intellectually you can just get it, just like I did just now.
Mm-hmm.
On an emotional level.
And how does that feel when you can make those connections and say to yourself, I realize that really isn't about me. It's about my mother and her priorities.
That felt good.
And when you do get that achy feeling, wherever it resides, just notice where it is. It's usually from, say, your neck all the way down to your low belly. That's where emotions, the energy of emotions, are mostly felt. All you have to do simply is just connect and feel that emotion where it is and just acknowledge it. And that's all we have to do to really process emotions. It's as simple as that, believe it or not.
So I can just acknowledge intellectually I'm feeling marginalized I'm feeling angry, and I kind of want to do it to her back. But then I also realized it had nothing to do with me. It's her hang-up, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to take on the burden because it's not healthy.
Right.
Literally not healthy.
No, it's not. How does it serve you? It doesn't. That's her problem. If she's not being the gracious mom that you would love to have, that's just the way it is. You can nurture yourself. Once we're adults, when we can get past all the junk and realize that we are precious. Each of us is precious. Each of us is deserving. And if we can't get that from our moms, then we can certainly give that to ourselves.
And you know what else? Because I kind of thought change meant something expensive, like, maybe intensive therapy, maybe a better living arrangement, maybe moving someplace else.
We are always trying to fix the external when it's really the internal. Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just pointed it out. Because just talking to you, we talked about a minor incident. We talked about how it led to a major incident, that this was not my fault. I may not like it, and there's no requirement that I like it. And I shouldn't repress the feeling that I don't like it, because that will lead to trouble, too. I've been there.
Yep.
And
Yep.
So what I did was just talking to you, I intellectually talked about it. And if you change intellectual, because I've heard this analogy, intellectual is like a mouse riding on the back of emotions, which is like an elephant. Because the emotions are powerful.
They are. And let me just put this into perspective for you. If you can think of the mind or the brain as being the conscious mind, and the body is where the unconscious resides. The brain can process 40 to 50 bits per second of information, where the body, the unconscious mind, processes 11 million bits of information. Where do you think you're getting better information or more information? It's not the mind, the spinning thoughts, is it? It's the body. It's that intuition. It's that unconscious mind.
Right. Can that be brought to the conscious?
Sure.
It can.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. If you're really interested, grab some information from Carl Jung. If you've ever read any of his stuff, it's very helpful in understanding the unconscious mind.
It sounds Asian.
It's not. It's actually not.
German.
He was Austrian German.
Okay.
And what was I going to tell you about that? Oh, the thought went out.
Unconscious mind.
I have some thoughts about how to get with the subconscious. Two of them. One is dreams.
Mm-hmm.
The secondly is doing artwork.
Yes, those are very good things to do. What I was going to tell you is that the unconscious mind is really problem solving for us 24 hours a day. And that's what comes up to the surface, bubbling through in dreams. That's what comes through with art and self-expression like that. Yeah.
Totally agreed. I just want to review before I go. The brain is intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
The body, which has more processing power, is unconscious, the subconscious. So what the brain needs to do is get in touch with whatever else is going on.
And how do you do that? Do you remember?
By not resisting the thoughts.
Uh-huh.
By
not resisting the emotions, allowing emotions, and getting in the body so that, and the way to get to the body is through breath.
Okay, the deep breathing.
Yeah, and not even deep. You just put your intention to breathe with your low belly, and then your body kind of takes over and does what it needs to do. And just become aware of your feet. Just close your eyes, be in your body, and be aware. That's really it. And just spend a little time doing that a few times a day. You can even throw this one in. Ask, what am I feeling now? And make that be about emotions. And it's just a little check-in you can do anytime.
What I'm feeling now is I wish the show was 2 hours.
Don't tell Timmy.
Oh. But, no, because, this is working so effective.
Well, you're asking questions that other people who aren't, willing to call probably might like to hear. So it's nice that you call in, Bill.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And what I'm going to do now is, while this is fresh in my mind, I'm going to just digest it. I'm going to go and digest it. And then when I'm next time at Pine Hill Park, I'm going to digest it some more, and I hope you come back.
Well, thank you. You have a great day.
Thank you. Bye, Ken. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Bill. I appreciate it. 773-9792, 773-WSYB. We serve you best. That's our phone number. Or the toll-free is 1-877-241-5960, 877-241-5960. Bonnie Olson, certified Martha Beck life coach, our guest this morning on SYB. She'll be at the CVPS Leahy Community Health Education Center at Rutland Regional Medical Center a week from today or tonight. That would be next Thursday, April 7th, 6 to 7:30. Your journey. Discover your inspiring story. Registration is required. Class size is limited to 30 people. There are a couple of avails left, so call quickly. 772-2400 is the number to make your reservation. 772-2400. Be kind to yourself.
And don't be afraid about the writing part of the class that's happening next week.
No one has to see it.
No one has to see it. It's And beyond that, it's not about writing per se. You don't have to be a good writer. It's just really getting your thoughts down and really coming to terms with what really is your truth. And it is really about being a whole lot kinder to ourselves. We're very tough on ourselves.
Yeah, we are. We all have that stern taskmaster running around back here, that's always saying, like Bill was saying, you screwed it up again. And we beat ourselves up over and over and over again.
That's right.
How do we escape the almost Nietzschean argument that you have to embrace the dark side, the evil within you, in order to bring out and manifest the good?
You do. That's what Carl Jung calls the shadow self, and we all have that shadow. And if we don't acknowledge it, then it becomes bigger. It's like a little 2-year-old who doesn't get noticed and whose needs don't get met. Same thing.
Temper tantrum.
Yeah, we all have that part of ourselves that we're not particularly proud of.
It's called human nature.
And that's just being human, and that's okay. We need to just accept that we're not nice all the time in our thinking and maybe sometimes in our behavior, and just forgive ourselves and let it go. And again, be kind. That's the big message today, is be kind.
But what's the difference between acknowledging the darker side, even, I'll spell it with a small e, embracing the darker side, and plunging headlong into it, giving it 100% with the outcome, that expected outcome, that will somehow make me better in the long run. In the short run, I'm going to be an awfully miserable person to be with for myself and for others to be around.
Well, you can try it, but usually there's such a rebound effect of regret and all of that. It's not usually that rewarding to go into those depths.
I wouldn't think so, no.
But, I think it really helps to be looking at how we want to live our lives. Ultimately, who do we want to be? How do we want to live? And just noticing that we're human when we're not perfect, and sometimes we don't do things the way that we would like to do or respond to people the way we would like to respond. We can make amends. We can apologize. But and then go on from there. It's all about being in our integrity, that piece of it. So as long as you're in your integrity, you're going to feel okay, even if it means making amends. That hurts a little bit.
You're not, well, no, if you put your pride aside, then it doesn't hurt nearly as much.
Right.
But are you espousing the theory that was always rampant in the service, which is better to ask forgiveness than ask permission?
Geez, I haven't known about that.
You've never heard that?
No.
Oh, no, it's always better to go ahead and do it, even if you kind of think you shouldn't and you're going to get in trouble later, because you can always say, oh, I'm very sorry, as opposed to, General, do I have your permission to do XYZ when you know you're going to get shot down?
Well, what's interesting, what comes to mind when you say that is take the good child, the child who always walks the line versus the child who kind of just goes out on impulse. And sometimes that impulse is good and you really learn something great from that experience. And if you know you're going to be told no, you're much more apt to go off,
of course,
and do that. But what you find is if that was your essential self talking to you, drawing you in that direction, and you knew you weren't going to get permission to go in that direction, then what can I tell you? Maybe it's good to explore, right?
But there's the old...
and the people-pleasing good twin.
Exactly.
That person is not necessarily happier than the person who took the risk.
No, not at all. But I was going to say, along those very lines, Bonnie Olson, if you think some of us have stern taskmaster old moms running around up here in the back of our heads.
Absolutely.
There are others of us who have that and 8, 12, or 16 years of good, solid Catholic, traditional, old-fashioned nuns running around up there as well. And you didn't want to upset them because then they'd tell the strict mom and you were in double trouble.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, the world's a different place now, isn't it?
Are you saying that good Sister Davidica would bend the line these days as opposed to towing the line?
No, not at all.
I didn't think so.
No.
I didn't think you'd go that far.
No. I think that basically we're not held to the same standards that we were a generation back.
Also, you said something interesting when you were talking with Bill a minute ago about, listening to your inner self and letting the unconscious come to the forefront more often so that you can follow that instead of what the logical brain is trying to tell you or what you think you're trying to tell yourself. And there's that old adage about, if you pass a certain person at work or, wherever in your social circles, acquaintances, and as the saying goes, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Your intuition.
That's telling you something,
Yes.
and don't ignore it. Don't rationalize yourself away from it.
Well, how many times has something occurred and you've gone, darn, I knew I shouldn't have done that.
No. How often do we say that on any given day?
Right.
Yeah.
So that, our intuition is so much a part of who we are. In modern life, we don't really tap into that intuition anymore. It used to keep us alive back when we were early humans. But we don't really hone that skill and don't keep up that sense about us. So we lose a lot of information, a lot of really valuable information.
It sounds almost as if, I keep thinking of the Wizard of Oz and, Dorothy, who had the power within her the whole time, except that, as, what was her name, Glenda the Good Witch, said to her right at the end, when Dorothy says, you mean all I had to do the whole time was click the heels together 3 times and I could have gone back home? Why didn't you tell me that? And Glenda says, because you wouldn't have believed it. You had to discover it for yourself. And in like manner, a lot of this sounds to me, Bonnie, as if we know it's within us, but we intellectualize it out of us and we refuse to follow what our gut is telling us.
Yeah, right. Because we've created these patterns of thoughts and behaviors based on what we're told we should be and what we should do. Yeah. Or we even make assumptions. And actually, a lot of times, those assumptions aren't even correct. What we thought our parents wanted from us oftentimes is just that they wanted us to be happy. And we think that they wanted us to do X, Y, and Z. So we go down that path and it wasn't at all what we wanted. And then you go back years later and say, well, geez, why didn't you tell me I could have been anything I want? So a lot of times, keep that in mind. We go on assumptions that are not necessarily true. So that's why it's so important to do what's best for you anyhow.
But by the same token, we live in a practical world in which there are expectations placed upon us. It might not be the best thing for me on any given morning to, I don't know, I can't come up with a good enough example. But to do X, and the boss really wants me to do Y. Well, clearly, it doesn't matter, even if I'm correct that X would be the best way to do it. If I don't do Y, I don't have a job tomorrow.
Right.
Then I've got real problems. So I have to do Y.
So, you have to meet certain expectations in order to be accepted in work or society, no doubt. But that still shouldn't get that much in the way. If your job really wasn't what you wanted and you kept on beating yourself over the head showing up for that job every day, that's not serving you.
So find a new job?
Yeah, if you're not happy.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that, because whenever I hear the story that I mentioned just a second ago myself about the hairs on the back of your neck standing up when you meet certain individuals, it's only happened rarely in my life. But there was this one guy, and I'm not making this up. There was this one, from the second I met, he was the general manager. I won't mention names or call letters of a certain station. From the second I was introduced to this guy, I was creeped out. The hairs went up. I felt the way your shoulders go up like this, and it's tense. And I was like, oh, man, do I get a bad vibe from this guy. I was polite. I shook hands, and because the program director was introducing me to the general manager, and I was, oh, yes, Mr. General Manager, nice to meet you. And I walked away thinking, but you intellectualize, because you think, no, my gut's got to be wrong. Nobody could be that evil, that bad.
He looks okay.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, he doesn't have horns. But what was weird, and I never said a word to anybody, 84, so that would have been 86. Maybe 2 years later, they hired a new guy. Guy had worked at a station across town. Guy I had admired for years, heard his work, loved him, was glad he was. So we became kind of instant friends. And I followed your work for years. Oh, I've listened to you, and So we're just sitting around chatting one day off station premises, and the general manager's name comes up, and I said to him, "Look, you never heard this from me, but man, from the day I met this guy, the hairs on the back of my neck he gives me the creeps. It's like I've met the devil incarnate. I can't shake it." Well, the look, Bonnie, on his face he was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one. I said, you too? And he had the exact same, and we both had the same MO to keep the job. We avoided him at all costs. It was a big enough physical plant that if we knew he was going to be going down this hallway, we'd go down that hallway just so we wouldn't happen to run into him. The kind of guy where if you passed in the hallway and said, I'll change the name, morning, George, he'd say good morning to you, and you could still hear him within earshot. He'd grab the next person down the hallway and say, Hayes just said good morning to me. What do you really mean by that? What? And so all of that, I guess, by way of illustrating, boy, validation is so important when it comes to this stuff. To have somebody, and I'm sure for him too, to have me validate his feelings that, oh, I'm not the only one. Because I thought, gee, it must just be me. Nobody else is picking up on this guy. Apparently, a lot of folks.
Apparently.
And it took the company an awful lot of years to figure it out, but eventually they did too. But we should trust our gut. Let's go to the phone, see if we can trust this person. Hi, you're on SYB.
I don't know. I'm pretty shifty.
No, I think we can trust you. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Don't let me down.
I have to say, I wasn't paying close attention. Did you, did you mention something about a workshop?
Yes.
Yes. And I was wondering if you could just mention the times and the dates again.
Well, the first one that's coming up.
I'll get off.
That's
the phone.
okay.
Oh, you want to listen off the air? Okay, thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
This next Thursday, not tonight, but a week from tonight,
right,
at 6:30 at Rutland Regional Medical Center down in the Leahy Center is going to have one class that I'm teaching, and it's a one-time class, Your Story, Discovering Your Inspiring Story. And that's what we've been talking about as far as we're discovering what your narrative is. The story you're kind of telling yourself all the time about your life, about usually generated by a particular event that was very impactful for you. That's going to be the first one, and don't let the writing part scare you. It's really about discovering how our brain gets trained to think about a situation in a very specific way, and we can't get off that track because we've created a really deep neural pathway in our brain. And sometimes by just coming in at a different angle and looking at our story, it changes everything. And sometimes it changes the way we look at ourselves entirely. So it's a really valuable class to do. And I'll be bringing in other articles and things of studies that have been done. And I have a couple of activities for us to do to learn more about what influences us, all those little voices that Kenn was talking about in the back of our heads that help direct us when instead, we really want to be listening to our inner self. So that's what that class is about. And then in May, for the first 3 Thursday evenings, I'm going to be doing Peace and Calm and Chaos again, where you're going to be learning a lot of the tools that we're talking about today as well. So I hope that helps. And thanks for calling in and asking.
Peace and calm in chaos. Isn't it funny that... I mean, it's almost ironic that it takes the miserable stuff, the stuff that's gut-wrenching, to kind of break us open and have us finally, deal with and come to terms with, and yet arrive at peace with.
Well, what happens
ourselves.
is everything is layered, and after a while, all of the emotions and things that we're not expressing and things that we're not feeling, we're tuning out of our bodies entirely, and all of those are very important messages. And we reach a crisis point where we feel so miserable, we can't help but to do something drastic to change. So we don't need to get to that point. We can make much more subtle changes and differences in our life by just going in. And what I wanted to mention, too, before we broke there for a minute, was that the more we just get quiet in ourselves, just quiet, and just get out of the thoughts of the mind. Just imagine that there's like this cartoon bubble, and whatever the thoughts are, the today, the to-do list for today, or the self-criticism, whatever it is, just set it in the bubble. Give yourself a few moments, take a few breaths, get into your body. And what can help you is just being aware of your feet, what your feet are touching, the pressure against the ground, or in your socks, your shoes. Just be in your body. That's where we're supposed to be living. That's home. We want to go home a lot. And when we do that, we are able to hear that intuition, that inner voice, that inner wisdom. And it comes up so much more easily for us the more we do that. We don't have to necessarily even be in our bodies. Our intuition is going to be able to be heard much more easily. So does that make sense?
It not only makes sense, I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm feeling calmer. Seriously, I'm not teasing you. And I'm thinking, you should be with me every morning here. Because when it gets crazy, and it can, because, we're up against deadline, and it's broadcast pressures and stuff. Well, and I think Bonnie should be right here. I need Bonnie to be here every morning.
You got all you need. Just take a couple breaths. Well, you can think of me, but know that you can do that for yourself every day. All of us can. And if we did it multiple times a day and it just became routine, and like I told Bill, ask, what am I feeling now? And make that be about inwardly. What am I feeling emotionally? What wave of emotion am I feeling? And you don't even have to label what the emotion is. That's not so important as just feeling the sensation in your body. Just get in tune with that. And then you're going to be much more apt to be in touch with your inner wisdom.
I like listening to you. I really do. Now see there, I'm supposed to be all tense and nervous because I left a big gap on the air, and that's supposed to be a no-no in radio. But see, you make me feel so calm. I'm telling you this. How'd you get to be so smart?
Well, you know how you talked about major events happening in your life and you redirect because you finally
It breaks you open.
It breaks you open.
Yeah.
Well, that happened to me too. And that's why I'm here talking to people and trying to help them to learn how to not suffer and start to be kind to themselves and listen.
I love having you on the show. We only have a minute or so left. Let's see if we can get a quick phone call here. Hi, you're on SYB.
Hi, it's me again.
Hi.
Would you give a phone call for registering? Thank you. I'll hang up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's 772-2400. 772-2400. Or if she just turned the radio back up because we're on 8-second delay and it makes people crazy, 772-2400. Space class size is limited to roughly 30 people. There are a couple of slots left open, so you should call as soon as you can. And that would be for next Thursday night, not tonight, next Thursday night, April 7th, 6 to 7:30. Bonnie Olson, your journey, discovering your inspiring story. All kinds of tools to help you on the journey, too. I mean, there's meditation and psychotherapy and prayer and support groups and journal writing. And when, as Bonnie said, when it comes to the writing, nobody else is going to read it. You don't have to worry. Somehow, for some reason, we crazy humans, it doesn't matter what it is we think. It has no validity until we see it in black and white or blue and white or blood on a piece of parchment paper. When we write something down for some reason, then it becomes real. Then it becomes tangible. Then it becomes something that we can deal with. And that's why they call it journal writing. That's just fancy for you're getting it out there instead of keeping it all inside and letting it run around in your head like a dog chasing its tail. Do I have that correct?
You do. And then there's another way of writing, and that is free writing. And you take just a junky notebook and just have a thought dump, all of the crappy thoughts that are in your head, because we want to release those emotions. We want to give them a place to go and to be noticed and heard. So we write down whatever we want about whoever we want, and then we destroy it. And no one ever has to be the wiser, but we don't keep that in our bodies to create anxiety or physical pain.
Which is funny because, again, it's almost a physical manifestation of something that intellectually we could do, but somehow we can't bring ourselves to do unless we physically do it.
Our mind is so good at helping us to avoid emotions. Our mind does not want to go
sister.
there.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to go there.
Yeah.
It looks at that as something that's dangerous. So it is a co-conspirator with us not feeling emotion. So we have to make the motion to feel the emotion, if that makes any sense.
It does. Mm-hmm. Thank you for making all of us feel better this morning, Bonnie Olson. You're a delight. I love having you on. I just always feel like I'm imposing if I ask you to come back too soon each time. But, once a week, I need this. This is great for me. And I know it's great for a lot of other folks who don't pick up the phone because they're too busy enjoying listening to us. Anyway, thanks, Bonnie Olson.